Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. In this video, I'm going to be covering a piece from XRP community member Eric Dedoon. This is his Coil blog, and so I'm mostly going to let this article speak for itself, which is something I'll do from time to time because I'm mostly going to treat this, at least this portion of the video, as a kind of like a community highlight. Again, I just do that from time to time. There's an awesome quote in here, though, from David Schwartz, and it says, it's something... I'm going to butcher this if I don't look at it word for word, but I'll give you the verbatim one as I get into the video here, but it's something like or exactly, let's level the playing field and let the best asset win, in terms of cryptocurrencies. So I'm going to run through that. I've also got some tweets from a Ripple employee, Nick Bugalis, talking about Spring, and I'll get the specifics to you in just a bit. And I'll wrap up this video with an article from CoinDesk titled "Bakkt Expands Bitcoin Custody Service Beyond Futures Trading Clients." And they've had a lot of positive articles written about them over the last few days or so, it seems. I was just talking about Bakkt yesterday in one of my videos, and here's another positive piece here. We're talking about institutional custody here in this particular case. But before I go any further here, if you would please delicately tap that like button, and if you're a fan of Ripple and XRP, go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. You might not regret it, but no promises. You might hate it. So thanks to Frecky for tweeting this out and tagging me. And who wrote, let me click on the link here. So he wrote, read this 8 times. Phenomenal job, Eric, must read. And he's referencing, this is again Eric Dedoon right here, who was invited by Ripple to Swell in Singapore. And so here he's got this. It just came out, Swell by Ripple 2019. So let's go ahead and jump in. Again, by Eric Dedoon, XRP community member. I was fortunate to attend Swell by Ripple. Initially, I submitted an application to attend, which was delightfully approved, and shortly thereafter, I was invited as part of the broader XRP community. Before I share my experience from the event, I would like to extend a massive thank you to Ripple for allowing me to participate. Swell is an immensely important annual event for them, and so I am grateful to have had the opportunity to attend, to network with those involved in the ecosystem, to further my perspectives on crypto as well as blockchain, and to engage with other like-minded startup founders and investors. Ripple also deserves some applause for their hospitality. Several of their team members were kind enough to take the time to engage with me on a wide range of topics and questions. Each one of them was a pleasure personally, as well as a professionally and incredibly insightful. So, the event itself. Keep an eye on the video content that Ripple has already started to release and will likely continue to release over the coming days and weeks. My personal recommendation is the keynote by Dr. Raghuram Rajan, where he spoke on a macro level across a multitude of topics, including fintech, easy money, and its impact on the economy, prospects for a recession, micropayments, cross-border payments, and more. Very well spoken and very insightful. I do not wish to regurgitate the news for you as I'm not a reporter, and frankly the headlines have already been widely distributed. That said, what I will say in terms of the news is that whether you like it or not, and whether you approve of it or not, fact is that Ripple, along with their partners, have created the single largest daily use case for crypto assets outside of speculation. Can I read that one again? Seriously. Ripple, along with their partners, have created the single largest daily use case for crypto assets outside of speculation. That is a fact. Furthermore, the use case is growing in terms of volume, a number of partners, and geographic coverage, all of which is comprised of both remittance players and banks, periods. Period. If not the news, what then? I spent the majority of my time at Swell trying to speak with as many individuals as I could, both in and out of Ripple. Apart from general networking and business opportunities within my startup life, I wanted to understand the perspectives and worldviews of these individuals beyond their public statements and headlines. As it turns out, and completely unsurprisingly, there is a far bigger machine at play in this industry than the one we often see in the news or on crypto Twitter. I am appreciative of everyone who spoke with me candidly, and out of professional courtesy, I don't intend to quote them or name them. The insight and commentary was spectacular, and everything I will comment on is my own personal view of the experience I had during the event. And now he's got a little subheading here, use cases. On-demand liquidity, ODL, is in my view the spark for the industry, not the end game itself. Nothing can be built for scale without a deep pool of liquidity. That applies to all assets, not XRP exclusively. Amongst other initiatives in the ecosystem, on-demand liquidity is where deep liquidity is being built. Will ODL lead to utility-driven price appreciation? I'll get to my thoughts around prices later. What I do want to focus on is that we are still so early in terms of use case development. Then there's 3 bullet points here. Number 1, derivative solutions are something the market has discussed periodically, and there are projects at various stages of development to facilitate this idea. Bullet point 2, how does data protection and our identity fit into the financial ecosystem of the future? Dr. Raghuram Rajan spoke briefly on this as part of his keynote, and it raises the question of how the ecosystem will aim to tackle this. And third bullet point, Dr. Raghuram Rajan further spoke on the power and reach of mobile telecom operators and how they could serve as a component in the financial ecosystem of the future. I had the pleasure of speaking to some individuals who share that perspective and are working to bridge the gap. Now, the market, neither Ripple or other participants are sitting around waiting for on-demand liquidity to take us forward. While on-demand liquidity is being built, a wide range of initiatives are being conceptualized, tested, and pushed out into the market. While ODL is an admittedly critical piece from an initial liquidity standpoint, it is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. This is all, of course, in addition to the widely discussed projects within the web monetization ecosystem. Efforts and proposals around the creation of stablecoins on the XRP ledger, XRPL Labs, and Spring. Then he writes, speaking of Spring, now check this out. We're about to get to a couple really cool quotes from Brad Garlinghouse and David Schwartz, actually. So, Spring. In my opinion, the public misunderstands the purpose for Spring. I also agree the public misunderstands the purpose for Spring, and I've talked about that a fair bit on this show. But anyway, he writes, yes, of course, where possible, XRP and the XRP ledger are advocated via the investments that Spring engages in. That said, there are 2 quotes by everyone's 2 favorite Ripple executives that people like to repeat but tend to forget quickly. So here's a Brad Garlinghouse quote. All boats will rise together. And then the David Schwartz quote, which I love. Level the playing field and let the best asset win. There you go. I am of the impression that these statements heavily influence the direction that Spring pursues. There will be no winner-takes-all situation in crypto, and if we accept that, then we must also accept that Spring has a primary focus on the adoption, growth, and health of the interledger protocol. The ILP will level the playing field via interoperability across protocols and financial assets. If we further accept that XRP is the best asset to facilitate the plumbing of the ILP, then we should be cheering any initiative made to advance that ecosystem. There's absolutely no reason why Spring is incapable of simultaneously investing in the adoption of XRP and growth of the XRP ledger while also taking a broader view of the industry via the ILP. Not only is there no reason they can't do that, that is exactly what they have been doing to this date. And man, I could not agree with this more. This is exactly what I've cited on this channel time and again. Some people were begrudging that their investments from Ripple Spring Initiative not directly related to XRP, and I'm just thinking, whoa, tap the brakes there. This is all part of a big picture. Anyway, with $500 million invested into the ecosystem to date and a broad view of the market via the interoperability that the ILP enables, there is nothing to prevent every ecosystem participant to want to engage with Ripple and Spring. All boats will rise together. And then get into this subheading here, regulations, governments, and Libra. During the Q&A portion of his panel discussion with Stuart Alderodi, Benjamin Losky commented on the fact that almost all regulators around the world will willingly and happily engage with proactive companies seeking their assistance. try to circumvent the law and ignore the wishes of those in power, prepare for problems. Seek out regulators for their guidance on how to best navigate a complicated and fluid regulatory environment of a still immature market. You'll be welcomed with open arms. You don't need me to remind you that Ripple has been busy opening an office in Washington, D.C., specifically to engage with the U.S. government and regulatory system. You also don't need me to remind you of the number of former SEC officials, government representatives, and high-end lawyers that are currently employed at Ripple. These individuals are not working to circumvent the law. They are working to engage with lawmakers to navigate the early days of this industry. So, is XRP a security? No. Needless to say, the public market will debate this topic ad nauseum until it is undeniably and publicly settled. That said, and while waiting for public confirmation is reasonable, we can't ignore certain indicators. Now he's got several bullet points here. 1. MoneyGram is a publicly traded company in the United States that, together with Ripple, engaged with relevant regulators to explain the use case they were engaging in prior to launch. Once that use case and the place that XRP holds within it were clear to them, no one stopped them. Period. 2. At best, Ripple is the only company in this space working tirelessly to engage regulators around the world, and at worst, the one doing so on the broadest level. It would be mind-blowing if Ripple is engaged in these efforts while regulators welcome a proactive approach to regulatory uncertainty, and then the conclusion then be a hammer. 3. Despite what some in the retail market would like to believe, Ripple does not control the price of XRP, and the network is increasingly becoming more decentralized. 4. XRP is not a security anywhere in the world, and in some countries it is specifically declared as such. Right? We still have a long road ahead in terms of regulatory clarity, but progress on this topic is being made in countries like Japan, Singapore, UK, and elsewhere. The US may be moving slower than some would hope, but there is a few undeniable truths to consider. While we live in an increasingly multipolar world, the US is still the US. While it cannot wait forever, when it does decide to move, it will move with force and with speed. So too will its allies. While Libra has been the recipient of public backlash, some countries would enjoy a world where an asset such as Libra allows for a reduction in the dependence and exposure to the United States dollar, in addition to ensuring increased pressure from U.S. regulators around Libra and Facebook. That is also a great way to ensure increased motivation to speed things up in terms of its own domestic approach to the broader blockchain and crypto industries. Public statements and news clippings aside, regulators in the United States and elsewhere are far more aware of how this industry works and what is taking place than we would be led to believe by statements and clippings. Right? And then he has a little section about China here, which is brief. He writes, it's as if no one that I spoke to at the event was briefed on the fact that they are supposed to be panicking. Sarcasm. In summary. So China advocating for blockchain adoption is great for the corporate sector and for China itself. It will also help push the world along in general in terms of this technology. As mentioned above, when the U.S. will move, it will move with force and speed, and so too will its allies. China is not expected to fully embrace the decentralized philosophy of blockchain. I regret to inform you that the current centralization of proof of work mining in China is not a secret to those in the halls of power across the world. This will not scale as currently constructed. Ba-bam, true words. Now here's the fascinating part. So now he gets to where he's talking about price, right? And he writes, finally, the topic that periodically feels like the only point of immediate interest to anyone, at least to anyone in the retail space. I don't say that as a judgmental statement. I respect the fact that a lot of people are hurting in terms of being overexposed or overinvested, frustrated by things unfolding at a pace contrary to their expectations, and so on. While I wish everyone the best, it doesn't change the fact that the price is irrelevant to everyone building the ecosystem, at least for now. Some would argue that the price would be more widely celebrated and discussed at Swell if the price was going up. While we can play what-ifs until the end of time, I maintain my position that this likely isn't the case. There's a long-term vision for the ecosystem that a wide range of individuals are working towards. The daily swings of an unregulated, immature, and speculative market are not guiding their thought process or decision-making. Coming back to on-demand liquidity, will it raise the price as it scales? Maybe. There are two sides to that argument, but in my view, not in and of itself. The more corridors we see, the more liquidity around on-demand liquidity will grow. The more corridors there are, and the more benefits get reported by early adopters of the technology, more market participants will seek to engage in the ecosystem. The deeper the liquidity, the more robust the use cases are that those market participants can engage in. As liquidity deepens, market participation broadens, and use cases scale, we will see an increasingly large accumulation of XRP by those participants. Yes! Man, he's just hitting the nail on the head here, guys. This is awesome. Anyway, what we will see throughout the above process is an incremental increase in the buying pressure related to accumulation of XRP. In the case of stable coin projects, derivative platforms, and other similar use cases, we will also see an increasingly large amount of XRP being used as collateral, which will also add to buying and holding pressure. As previously mentioned, this is, of course, all in addition to efforts around web monetization and other initiatives being worked on. The market likes to talk about a switch. There probably isn't going to be an overnight event that triggers the switch. There is, however, going to be an increasingly faster pace of development and growth of both the ecosystem and the price as things scale. Speculation or FOMO might offer up some spikes along the way, but long-term sustainability is the true objective. We are early. The road remains long. The progress and direction is undeniable, though. To complain about the price today while the market remains unregulated, immature, and speculative is akin to complaining about a lack of penthouse on a condominium where the construction crew is busy laying the foundation for the lobby at the first floor. So, to sum it up, crypto was born of the anger from 2008. The banks were drunk at the wheel, the governments bailed them out with taxpayers' money, and the people were upset. Welcome to crypto. While many purists would like to see the eradication of banks and governments, the fact is that these institutions are not going anywhere. Not only are they not going anywhere, but we will see tanks in the street before we see them relinquish their power over monetary control. That may not be the reality that some wish for, but it is reality nonetheless. With regards to purists, it should also be said that the first iteration of a technology has never in human history been the version to win. Innovation is the only thing that will take us forward. The 800 or so individuals who attended Swell spoke openly and publicly about their desire to create a more efficient world using new technology. Although it is popular to discuss how slow and outdated some of these institutions are, many of these institutions are exploring digital innovation, crypto custody solutions, and more. Yes, outdated banks are talking about crypto custody solutions. Decentralization, as the market currently wishes to view it, is a meme. Trust has and will always exist. The goal is to create a more efficient world built on better technology that allows for optimized systems, more transparency, and more inclusion. I am happy to say that 800 or so of the smartest and most powerful people in the financial ecosystem are working tirelessly towards the implementation of that worldview. Unfortunately for us, the implementation of that worldview may take longer than we'd like. That is, however, not for lack of effort, intention, knowledge, or information. We need to look beyond the headlines. We need to look at the macro. We need to stop expecting the world to operate at the speed with which we decide it should operate. We need to stop expecting the ecosystem participants to reveal every bit of their plans, operations, and strategies to us. We need to zoom out and let the builders build. To truly appreciate the elephant, you need to step away from it to get a better look. Thanks to #SwellByRipple, amongst other objectives fulfilled, I feel I have a slightly better and reaffirmed perspective on the elephant. Hope to see you again in London, which is where the next Swell is going to be next year. Very well written. Wow, that is to me, that is absolutely astonishing. It's a very reasoned approach that he took to writing this. It's just, I got to tell you, like the vast majority of what he wrote here and his perspectives are so in line with what I have long felt is actually taking place and actually unfolding. That's why a big part of what my message is on this channel is just the idea of certainly utility and not offering financial advice. Just to be clear, no financial background here, but for my opinion is that patience is absolutely required. If we're going to get the outcome that we want as investors, it's going to be because we're patient, and there is no way around that. That's why some in the community joke that you get paid to be patient. That's pretty much it. Which it's fair enough, right? So he did just an amazing job writing through this, and I could not agree more. So I hope that you really enjoyed this little highlight that I did of his coil blog here. But I think it's awesome. All right, next year, and this is going a bit longer than I initially intended, so I should probably try and be a little quicker here. But I did want to cover this just real briefly. And I saw this initially because of XRP Research Center. He tweeted out, these are just Spring developer partners, which is super cool. It doesn't necessarily mean that they received investments from Spring. And that was a retweet of something from Ripple employee Nick Bougalis, who is leading the C++ team at Ripple. Yes. So he tweeted this out. Welcome to several new members of the XRP community, including BitPay, CoinMe, Binance America, Blockdaemon, and Chainalysis there. So cool stuff. Then here's this piece from CoinDesk. Bakkt expands Bitcoin custody service beyond futures trading clients. Bakkt is ready to store customers' Bitcoin. Intercontinental Exchange's Bitcoin subsidiary announced Monday. It would provide custody services for institutional clients. And check out this. These are big names. I'm sure you've heard of at least some of these. Pantera Capital, Galaxy Digital, and Tegomi have already signed up as initial customers for Bakkt Warehouse, with other marquee firms expected to join over the next few weeks. That's massive. Anyway, when it was first launched, Bakkt was only able to provide custody services to clients trading its Bitcoin futures contracts. Monday's news comes amid an additional approval by the New York Department of Financial Services, which previously granted the company a trust charter. In a blog post, Bakkt COO Adam White wrote that a critical link in the institutional adoption of Bitcoin is custody. When investors have ready access to regulated custodians whose security and processes they trust, the full potential of this emerging asset class and technology can flourish. He wrote, adding, here's a quote, while technology provides the foundation by which we securely store customer funds, the Bakkt warehouse employs extensive physical, operational, and cybersecurity safeguards too. Our relationship with Intercontinental Exchange, a Fortune 500 company that owns and operates the market infrastructure upon which the world's largest financial institutions already rely, enables us to uniquely address client needs in the digital asset custody space. And so I thought, given the nature of what Eric Dedoon had to write about his experience with Swell at Ripple and the importance of letting infrastructure be built out over time, I thought this tied in perfectly, and it's brand new news. So anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. You are a rock star. I'm not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!